What's going on, everybody? This is Afro Think Tank. Today, I want to have a discussion that I've never heard anybody ever discuss, right? And it's about how we comprehend the comparisons between African Americans in America and immigrants who come to America and succeed, right? Because in the conversation, we always hear from, various different sides that, oh, why is Caribbeans coming to America and succeeding more than the African Americans? Why are continental Africans coming to America and succeeding more than African Americans? Why Nigerians come to America and exceed more than African Americans? Why Chinese or Asians come to America and can succeed more than African Americans, right? And those are used to belittle African Americans, right? But the conversation's never being had correctly, not from its proper perspective. And the two groups who are being compared to each other are not necessarily comparable because they're not the same type of people. So what I want to do is I want to lay it out to where we can properly do the comparison. Now, me personally, as an African, when it comes to the black people, I don't see it as Africans coming to America and doing anything better than African Americans. I don't see it that way. I don't see it as Caribbeans coming to America and doing anything better than African Americans. The way I see it is Africans coming to America, improving on the black economy, coming to America and adding to the African American, economic system, right? I look at all black people doing anything positive in the country as a net positive for Africans, right? In the real world, that is true, right? We always complain, oh, they didn't come and back us up, even though that is always taken out of context, because how can they back us up when we're all fighting at the same time our own individual wars against the very same oppressors, right? But what I want you to understand is African Americans, just like the rest of Americans, right? We are here and foundational to the country, right? I'm using the word foundational to the country as you see it, right? So we live within the system as natives, right? And we know that the system itself was built, on our backs, from the sweat of our backs, but it wasn't built for us. It was built to hinder us, right? Now, we also know that black people in America have been traumatized by the oppressor, by the colonizer, by the European systematically for centuries, which causes an effect, obviously, right? And it causes African Americans to have a certain sentiment towards those people. Therefore, it doesn't make everything conducive as far as business is concerned. So Europeans would like to go get the same product that doesn't have the same trauma. So they go off and they find black people who have not experienced the same trauma as the African that they took the first time, right? That's why they go out and get Nigerians and Caribbeans who don't suffer generational trauma. That way they can have all the benefits of a black person, but without none of the negative connotations of a black person scorned or damaged due to their capitalistic practices, right? But what I think is a fair comparison is, and this goes towards my continental Africans, some of them, and my Caribbeans, who sometimes use this argument when arguing with other African Americans. We all argue, right? Well, everybody got some shit to say, right? And I'm not taking any sides. I'm above the fray. You understand? I'm above the fray. All the people, all that xenophobic, tribalistic shit's down here. I'm above it. I'm above that. I'm an African. I see all of us as family, despite our different differences, right? So the better comparison would be a Nigerian that comes from Nigeria to America. That Nigerian is above economically the average Nigerian, right? To be able to fly, to be able to get a visa to come to America, you already got to be at a certain level before they even let you in, right? You're gonna have to be on the upper echelon class of your countrymen in the first place. You gotta have a degree. You better be coming with business. That's how it works. You're not just getting these visas and coming over here unless you have something to give America, right? That's how it works. So majority of people who come here, right, they already have a leg up. They have money, they have networks, they have these things. So of course, when they come here, they have leverage that they can leverage in America to thrive and do business and surpass the majority of the regular foundational Americans that's here. That's just how it works. Now, unfairly, that person is being compared to the average African American, right? And so, of course, there's going to be a discrepancy there of accomplishments. But what should be compared is that individual who has the money and the capability to fly, right? Relocate himself to an entire different country and establish himself through business and scholastics. That person should be compared to the African American who has the money to get up and fly to another country to establish themselves through business and scholastics. You know, so you compare a Nigerian, a Cameroonian, an Ethiopian, right? And we're talking in a black context. You compare them to that very same type of African American who flies to their countries and sets up shop in business. So you see Nigerians, they come here, they set up shop, they set business, right? Because they're a part of the upper middle class or upper class echelon of people who are educated enough and have enough financial capability to leverage themselves that way, right? That person can only be compared to the African American who are upper middle class to upper class, who have the finances and education to go to another country and establish themselves through business and connections and network. Now you compare those two groups and see who's doing better, right? Now me, I don't want to say who's doing better. That's not how I look at it. I want to know, is each group who's doing it, are they establishing the roots necessary for it to grow and spread? Because I'm all about the connection. I'm a Pan-African. So I want every continental African that comes to America with the idea of establishing themselves through business and education and all that. I want them to dig their roots deep into the institutions that they're able to dig themselves in America, right? Because 9 times out of 10, that African that comes here is going to be somewhere around African Americans, and African Americans will benefit from that, which I've witnessed my entire life. As I see plenty of Africans come from Africa and establish businesses within the black community, and African Americans being employed by those very same Africans, right? So it's a benefit, right? That's in the real world, not on the YouTube world where low informational or people who can't control their emotional impulses like to argue on the internet safely behind their keyboards. I'm talking about in real life, right? Just like in real life, me as an African American, I go to Nigeria and I establish business within, obviously, the Nigerian community. And because of that, I in turn employ Nigerians. So it's a net benefit for those people. Those are the people that are comparable. Because if we're going to compare just like the regular folk, right? The regular 9 to 5, if you want to compare the foundational African Americans who are struggling day to day and don't have the opportunity, don't have the finances or the leverage to leverage themselves economically within the system that they live in, right? We're going to have to compare them with the Nigerians or the Cameroonians or the Ethiopians in their countries that don't have the money, finances, or capability to leverage the resources that they have in their countries to benefit themselves financially and economically, right? That's within the black community. And we can say the same thing within all communities. All communities. Because for every one of these, let's go outside the black world, Chinese people that come over, Asians come over here, go to their country and show me what their foundational population is doing, you know, as a community. Show me where every single Chinese person has a Fortune 500 business and is thriving and making all this money and have no financial problems and that's balling economically. Show me that, because I can show you a China where everybody's suffering, right? And people are hurting because food costs too much, because housing and real estate costs too much. The same issues that we have in America, they got the same issues over there, even though it's remixed a little different because of the way the government's set up in China, right? People are literally leaving China in droves, trying to leave those countries. The people are trying to leave their own country, abandoning their own country to come here because America biggest import is people, right? It's immigrants from other countries that can provide resources to America. That's always been our biggest import is intelligence from other countries, right? So no Chinese person on YouTube, TikTok, anywhere can talk trash about African Americans, right? About our condition within this country, without being a hypocrite, because if you look at the country that they left, right? People will say flee, but I mean, if you want to be derogatory, you say flee, but they left for economic opportunity here, right? Look at their country, how their country folks are doing, and see if they have space to run their mouths without being a hypocrite. Same with Africa. Not one continental African, right, couldn't really use that as an argument against African Americans, because when you go to their countries, you would see that they left their countries, right, for economic opportunity here in America, right, because they had something to leverage over here, right? But if you look at their country, their people are doing just as bad. They're stressing out just as much as we are, because they can't take advantage of the resources that they have within their countries the same way we can't take advantage of the resources within our countries, because we are part of the fabric of the country in which the well-to-do use us to make themselves even richer, right? Just each country got their own different flavor how they do it, but that's the case, right? So you can't compare an entrepreneur, world-traveling African to a regular village African, right? And in America, we have village African. Most African Americans are village African, just like a village African. They don't never go nowhere, right? They may go up and down, the states a couple times. They may go on a vacation every now and then, but for the most part, they're pretty enclosed in with their particular environment. And most people don't go anywhere. And that's just worldwide. Most people don't travel outside of their area. People spend their whole lives, for the most part, within the area they were born, for the most part. So to do a proper comparison, you compare the international traveler, the international business person, you compare the expats with each other, right? And then, like I said, when it comes to Africans, it shouldn't be a comparison. We should be checking the status, right? Every African American that's going over there, Africa, we should be checking the status, right? If you are the African American, you're going to do business, we should be checking the status if they're over there doing proper business, if they're over there being successful, how are they being successful? What are they doing to be successful? What are they using to leverage themselves for success? And how can I duplicate that success over there if I want to go do that said thing in that industry, right? Same thing with continental Africans. What are they doing when they come over here? What are they using to leverage themselves over here? What are they doing to connect themselves over here to benefit themselves and my people, in general? Right? That's what we should be doing. Not comparing the peasant to the middle class. You don't compare the peasant to the middle class. You don't compare a high school basketball team to a college basketball team. Right? You don't compare a high school basketball team to a professional basketball team. They don't compare. They're on two different leagues. They're two different groups of people. Right? A lot of times we forget that there's classism. Well, we ignore the classism, just like Indians. People like to use Asian people and Indians as an example to try to say, oh, look how the Indians coming over here. They're so intelligent, they're smart, they make so much money. Well, if you look at India, right, if you compare the average African American to the average Indian, the average African American is doing better than everybody. The average African American in America, even the ones on the lower end, is doing better than 90% of almost every group of regular people on the planet. Just period. We are. Just because of our proximity, our location, and our contributions and where we are geographically. We are doing better than 99%. As a group of people in America, our economy is, as a group, African Americans are one of the richest we are the richest, one of the richest groups of people as a category on the planet. And I'm talking about at all races on the planet. We are, right? Despite all the derogatory things that people say about us, despite all the the stereotypes, whatever, African Americans in America, our regular peasant class, we are doing better than most people on the planet. Even though within this country, that's still not good enough to really benefit, in the system that we live in. This capitalistic system that pretty much takes all of your money. We're all economic slaves here. Everybody's an economic slave in America. That's a new type of slavery. Economic slave. Your social security number is your credit score. That was the chains that's wrapped around your neck, your legs, and your wrists. All right, that prevents you from doing things. The taxes that we pay and the rules and regulations are things that prevent us from really being free in this world and doing what it is we want to do. There's a lot of things put in place to stop the average individual from overtaking the well-to-do, to competing with them up there. But, we just have to keep things in context. The Africans in general, right? And then people and here's another thing. Africans on the continent, despite the things they go through, are doing better than the average Chinese person in China. Because the average Chinese person in China is living the same way the average African person lives as far as housing and how things are, development and all that stuff. But the difference is the systems in Africa don't crush the people as much as they do in China, right? Now, if you think you don't own nothing here in America, you really don't own nothing in China, right? Chinese people and a lot of Asians, they live in the same mud huts or adobe-style houses as most of Africa, right? Or most of the rural parts of Africa, right? Africa has the same high-class neighborhoods with modern buildings and houses, middle class, upper class, as every other place in China, right? Despite the things that people say, right? So Africa's not that far behind the rest of the world as we think, as that likes to be portrayed, that's put out there, right? It's the media, old media, that continues to try to portray Africa as completely and totally backwards to the rest of the world, but consistently Africa is pretty much where the rest of the world is, give or take some bad roads and a few other things when it comes to infrastructure and a few other critical utilities that certain African countries need to really improve themselves. For the most part, everybody's pretty much on the same. Everybody didn't have 400 years of 100% profit through criminalistic slave labor like the European countries, who only developed to this level because of African money, blood, and sweat and material. That is it, and that is all. But we Africans need to elevate the conversation and stop putting these stupid, dumb, freaking bait and switch tags just because you want people to click on your video, talking about Africans, why Africans are doing this better than African Americans, why Caribbeans are doing this, why these bait and switch, these dramatic YouTube video titles that's made to get people to already be pissed off before they click the video. That's made to get people to think there's going to be drama and arguments, because you know how people are when you get to comparing people and stuff like that. That's the only reason that people even making videos like that, because they know drama sells. So instead of thinking about the Pan-Africanism or pro-blackness, instead of the overwhelming need for unity and having content that promotes unity, people fall for the almighty dollar. And they say, you know what? I'm just going to pander to the ignorant. I'm going to pander to the lowest denominator. I'm going to keep regurgitating old divisive topics because it's going to get me paid. YouTube going to give me money to bring up these old divisive topics to create conversations that don't have any benefit to the community, because we're having circular conversations about topics that are not being put in its proper context and is not being talked about by anybody of any type of intellectual note or any type of intellectual freaking intelligence to be having those type of conversations, right? And it just is no point in having panels, having round robin conversation echo chambers, goating in pissed off, uneducated people who just get mad because somebody said something about their country, or somebody said something about their tribe, somebody said something about their people, then they just want to argue. And now we got a Jerry Springer freaking Ricky Lake show going on, and people just tuning in for the drama, right? And we have to start separating the real Pan-African, real pro-black channels that want real solutions and really want to contribute to the movement, even though I know it can be boring because there's not a lot of drama in that. You know what I'm saying? It requires intelligence and intellect, people who like to read, people who like to have slower conversations because they need to comprehend fully the topic so they can have dynamic conversations, right? We got to separate those from the ones that's just looking for a Jerry Springer show, right? Because we have a lot of Jerry Springer shows out there that's using the sentiment of pro-blackness, Pan-Africanness, black unity, and all they're doing is having stupid shows that don't do nothing but create more division and confusion within the black community that's trying to learn and unlearn things and being mixed and confused by all these pseudo intellectuals. All right. Anyway, I hope you understand what I'm saying. Give me your thoughts on the comment section, about what do you believe about this topic? Do you think I'm correct when I say we need to start comparing the classes to each other, the different types of Africans that's moving about the world right now, as Africa and African people are rising to our natural position on this planet and going through all the bumps and bruises and potholes on the road on the way to success? Anyway, that's all I got to say. It's Afro Think Tank. Learn something. I'm out.